is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunday Lunch with Krupa and Nazya. Today we'll be talking to our guest Ladi, who'll be shining the beacon and harnessing hope through career education. We'll end with our wishing you earlier and our Strengthy Sunday moment.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, check it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome to our Sunday Lunch show with Krupa and Nazya. Hi Krupa.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad at all. Recovering.
Right. So as always, let's start with how exciting your weekend's been. You seem to get on with a lot more exciting things than I do. So let's hear it.
Where do I begin? Right. Okay. So Festival of Education. So we were there having a wonderful space and forum to have a discussion, but I'll come to that in a second. But I just wanted to take a step back and think about how powerful Festival of Education actually is. The number of talks that were happening, and really powerful talks, were incredible. But there's a few things that I thought was pretty interesting, and all the ones that I went to hear. There were some really key themes that came through, and actually it's really nice compared to last year. A lot of it was around action. So I think we're moving away from really nice ideas or great ideas or things that we have to do, and they're actually becoming really quite tangible, and people are saying, this is what we've done so far, and this is the direction we're going in, and this is the impact that we've had. So for me, that was really, I felt there was a greater sense of hope in that regard. But in regards to what we were talking about around developing BAME women in particular into leadership, and my goodness, the people that we were with at that point in time and how they were sharing their vulnerabilities was really touching. But also, what was interesting, and I didn't expect this to be said out loud, but was said out loud, is how the system for recruitment or for, and yeah, I'll just keep it to recruitment and keep it nice at this point in time, and how there are concerns around collusion, and there are concerns around it not being as fair as it may appear, and how that has impacted women of colour in particular, which is really, really interesting. And another really big thing that came through was the number of NDAs that are happening, which again is things that I'm going to go in and really delve into and think further on. So that was really, really interesting. But yes, overall, fantastic. I'm still decompressing, still trying to unpick all the wonderful things that happened. So yeah, good.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Krupa, for sharing your weekend with us. So today we'll be talking with Ladi, and let's get started.
Hello, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with Nazya, as always, but also to have a very special friend and someone that we both admire dearly in her working career. So without further ado, welcome, Ladi.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Great to be here.
How are you?
Not too bad. Excited to be here and be talking to your audience. So really, thank you for having me.
It's really nice to have a platform with enthusiastic people that also are able just to share some good work, some good practice, and to network. So talk us through who you are and your career to date.
Wow. Okay. Who am I? I am Ladi Mohammed. I like to think of myself as a careers practitioner, careers professional. I've been in careers for about 28, 30 years now, loving every aspect of it. I've done it for adults, helping people find work, unemployed people find work. I've done it for executives, helping executive move up in their careers. But at the moment, and I'm loving what I'm really doing, which is really working with students. I used to work in a university with students, but now I work with secondary school students and their career leaders and educators to make sure that students are well informed in secondary schools to be able to make informed decisions about their careers and their futures.
So, Ladi, what made you go into this aspect of education?
Oh, that's a really great question. And I was actually thinking about this about a month or two ago when I visited America, and someone was at a conference in Delaware, and someone asked me the same kind of question, like, where does your passion for careers come from? And I realized really and truly that it came from a very early age for me. So there've been sort of like pivotal experiences that have solidified my dedication to championing careers for young people, and recognizing really and truly how good careers can positively influence multiple aspects of life. I had the privilege of witnessing individuals, including my own father, for example, through their successful careers, achieving remarkable milestones. I saw how having a good career not only provided them with financial stability, but also opened doors to countless opportunities. My father, for example, was able to purchase his first car in Nigeria, a symbol of independence and mobility, which further enhanced his sort of like personal and professional growth. His career success has played a crucial role in meeting and marrying, say, my mother, us, his kids, later on influencing us in our own life choices. So it really helped him to find a wonderful partner. As both my mother and my father, they were very attracted to themselves being like-minded individuals who had the same kind of ambitions and values. Despite my grandfather, for example, who was a goat herder in Nigeria, who had 14 children. My father was one of them. Despite that, my father, deliberately concentrating on focusing on his career, was able to come to the UK as a Nigerian government representative, and he was able to provide for his family financially, and then lots of other things came our way. Because him, for example, my father's dedicated to his career, we were able to come here to this country to go to boarding schools here, where my brother and myself were able to sort of like build up our what's known as cultural capital. We were able to make connections to have friends that their fathers worked in industries that were, I always tell people, I probably would never be unemployed just because I have enough connections based on sort of like my boarding school friends to be able to find a job if need be. So that kind of thing came into place. But just quickly adding, my father also, because of him being able to focus on his career, move his family over here, he was able to buy his first home in England. He was able to take us on numerous holidays to America, to Nigeria many times, where we'd meet, sort of like our cousins and things like that. But most of all, it was really the memorable holidays, enriching experiences that we gained from these memorable holidays that allowed me to also be able to explore new horizons and, more importantly, create really cherished memories with my grandparents, because Dad took us to see Grandpa and Grandma. It was all these wonderful things that made me think, if you get your career right, you'll be able to afford a good home, afford a good car, but more importantly, create really long-lasting memories with your family. So for me, it was also that kind of, being able to just support your family long term. My father was also the epitome of diversity. I got to meet people from Israel just because he was able to connect with business contacts in these kind of countries. So it was that kind of thing, I'm thinking, that really got me very much interested in careers.
It's so interesting. It's like the way you're talking about it is exactly how when I think about a career path for myself and what having a job, a career that my dad took on, what that meant for us as an immigrant family, and how actually the premise of that has changed over a period of time. now with second and third generation,
Yes.
what you find is that it's not about, making a place for yourself in society in the same way, and making
Mm,
a safe space for yourself in a new country.
mm.
It's the parameters have changed, haven't it?
Yes. Oh, 100%. You brought a smile to my face as you were talking there, because as you said, quite rightly, my children are third generation, hence why for me it is really important that we concentrate on the power of storytelling. My father used to tell me lots of stories about my grandfather. I got to see Nigeria firsthand because my dad did make sure every year we went back to Nigeria on holiday, and we did visit my grandfather in his mud hut. And we were made to appreciate that this mud hut did not have electricity. So please appreciate it that you have this in London. And I'll never forget one of my cousins coming up to us and saying, "Is it true that you have libraries in London?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Then why isn't everybody in England a lawyer or a doctor? Because if you've got books that can read to become lawyers and doctors, why are you not? Why am I hearing stories that some students in England don't want to go to school? Why would you not want to go to school?" That there really had a big impact on me, ladies, because it made me realize I must never take for granted the ability to have a book that I want. I can go to the library, ask for it, even if they don't have it. My library, the ones that my dad used to walk us to, they would order it for us. And yet, students or children in Nigeria didn't have this. My own cousin in Nigeria didn't have this. So I knew I had to make a success of myself. My children now, on the other hand, they take it for granted. Oh, clean water, running electricity, no problem. It's all, so I need to make sure I'm telling them the stories of my cousin who didn't even have a library book to get to. Please don't take the library for granted. These opportunities are available to you. Please make the most of it. Build yourself a great career like Granddaddy did. Build yourself a great career like Mummy does. I always tell people, I have the best job in the world. I get to help to make dreams come true. A student tells me I want to be a lawyer. I get to find a barrister to come into their school to talk to them. A student tells me that, I want to be an engineer. I get to take them on a trip to a construction site where they meet lots of other engineers who are doing work that they might be interested in. Student says, I would love to do, sports. I get to take them to Wembley Stadium. I have the best job in the world. I help to make dreams come true. My child, you make sure you get the best job in the world. It may not be anything to do with careers, but whatever your passion is. My son Luke, I think I've mentioned to you previously, he's 13 years old. He loves drawing. He wants to become an architect. I'm making sure that I am telling him stories so that he will be empowered to know that, guess what, you can be an architect. But more importantly, you've got to study to be one. And I put him in contact with employers that can help him. Give him advice on to how to become an architect. But you're very right. It is a challenge with third generation immigrant students. They from my own experience, I can't speak for anyone else, but I often tease my kids that you have an entitlement mentality, which you need to work on. You're not entitled. You need to earn a lot of the things you need to get. It's just not going to happen.
And that brings me to my next thought. And as I was listening to you, there's so much there that I resonate with as well. And I think, and very similar in terms of, our cultural background, but also the expectations, the cultural expectations, and the difference that we grew up with. So when we were at home, it was very traditionally Indian. And then when you left and you went to school, it was very British.
Yes.
So I when I hear what you're saying, I also feel what you're saying. And I, thinking about your father and the resilience that he had, how strong he was to have left his country and come away and do those things. And actually, we take that for granted.
Thank you.
Because we're here, we're very settled and we feel part of that community and that belonging. And our children, therefore, feels further away from it. So I think the message here is actually, how do we bring back that really strong thread? So we stay appreciative and really grounded ourselves. We look up and we say, do you know what, Mom and Dad, if it wasn't for, or Grandpa and Grandpa, if it wasn't for, I have to put my hand up and say, big respect. But also to my own children, I'm taking you back to go and say, honestly, I'm taking you back. I did that last year in India. I took my kids back And we went to villages and we went to schools and they came back and they said, Mum, I need to build something here so everyone has a job. Because if we give them money, they'll spend it. We need to give, because that will keep them working. And actually, it took that trip and a lot of conversation, all the rest of blah, blah. But we're at the risk of losing it as well. So, lots and lots of thoughts and feelings that have come from that. Thank you, Ladi.
Oh, this is so exciting talking to you, Ladi, because more times than not, we kind of, like you said, take it for granted, but we forget the importance of making sure that young people are aspirational about about their futures and the careers that they are open to. And so we're so excited to have you on the show, and we've got so many more questions, but right now we've got to go to a break, and we will see you right after this.
It's time for a fresh start to language learning. Pearson EdXL's new student-centred French, German and Spanish 2024 GCSEs cater to the needs of all learners, regardless of their background, ability or reason for studying. Rooted in learned language knowledge, their assessments are transparent and accessible, allowing all students to showcase their language skills. Through inclusive and relatable content, the new Pearson EdXL MFL GCSEs build a shared cultural capital that helps students develop an understanding of and appreciation for the wider world. Find out more at go.pearson.com/MFL GCSE 24.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
BBC News reports that the school run by Ruth Perry, who took her own life after a critical Ofsted, has been rated good after a new inspection. Ms Perry died in January after receiving news her school was being downgraded from outstanding to inadequate. Ms Perry's death prompted an outpouring of anger about the inspection system, although Ofsted defended its grading process and said one-word gradings would not be scrapped. The latest report comments on the work done by the school to address previous weaknesses. The new report raises again the question of high-stakes inspections. MPs are to hold an inquiry in the autumn and will look at how the system is working. Ms Perry's sister, Professor Julia Waters, said in a statement, "The reversal of the previous judgment in a matter of months illustrates why schools should be given the time to correct weaknesses before the final report is published, and that the latest judgment proves what all of those who knew Ruth and the school have known all along." Last month, Ofsted announced some changes which allow schools that were given an inadequate rating over safeguarding to be re-inspected within 3 months, giving them a chance to be regraded if they have addressed concerns. Teachers' pay has been in the news again following 2 further days of strike action from teachers in England. The Daily Mirror reports that Education Secretary Gillian Keegan is continuing to be under pressure to publish pay proposals or risk strikes dragging on even longer. All the major teaching unions in England are conducting fresh ballots after rejecting a £1,000 one-off payment for 2023 and an average 4.5% pay rise for next year. The government referred the decision on pay to the pay review body, who has reportedly recommended a 6.5% pay rise, but the DfE continues to refuse to publish the advice. The Guardian reports on Labour's plans for education should they win the next general election. The article itself focused on plans for early years, which could see more graduate teachers working in nurseries and more nursery places in primary school settings. Shadow Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson said she wanted to put early years on an equal footing with schools to give children the best start in life. The TES gave further comment on Labour's plans as the party set out how it plans to boost teacher retention and improve standards. The plan includes giving early career teachers a one-off payment of £2,400 for staying in the profession and sending regional improvement teams to help schools. New teachers will be required to have QTS, and they will also improve recruitment by cutting costs. The party, currently in opposition, has not made any comment on teacher pay. Finally, the BBC reports on what it describes as a crisis in waiting for children in care. In March, the government extended a ban on unregulated homes to children in care aged 16 and 17. This followed a BBC investigation which found some had been forced to live in caravans and barges, and some had experienced abuse. The crackdown begins in October, when Ofsted will begin inspections, and all unregulated care settings will become illegal. However, some local authorities fear they will have to continue the use of unregulated accommodation, usually in houses and flats in residential areas, because they will have no alternative. Regulated placements are suffering chronic staff shortages, and a squeeze on places at the same time as a rise on numbers of children coming into care is causing continued issues. A DofE spokesperson said it was the responsibility of local authorities to provide safe placements, but that it was investing £142 million over the next 3 years to ensure the transition to Ofsted registration is successful. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I'm going to support a question everyone will see at the start of next year. It goes something like this. Hi EduTwitter, can you reply with where you are so I can show my class how far a post on the internet can reach? With a bit of free tech, you can make this much more visual. I'm going to use Google Maps because it's free, and most likely you'll have used Google Maps at some point in the past. So, when you have all your responses, sign into Google, go to Maps and click on the menu next to the search box. That's the 3 lines that look like a burger. From the menu, select My Places. You'll now have 4 options. Lists, Labelled, Visited and Maps. Click on Maps and at the bottom select Create Map. Now you can give the map a title so you can find it next year for comparison and add all the places from your Twitter replies. Simply type the name of the place. When it appears with a blue point marker, you can click the plus sign to add it to the map and then select a colour to help it stand out. When you've finished, all places will be saved and you can access the map by following the first few steps. Menu, My Places, Maps. There are loads of other great tools to use also. Measure the distance from your school to those places, hit preview and go into view only mode. Here you can select a place and you're treated to a short bio and an image of the area. So next time you're looking to bring a lesson to life, why not try using maps to help pupils see where places are in the world? Do you have any top tips for mapping? Why not get in touch and tell us what you want to know about tech? I'm Steve Woods and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome back, and we are in the midst of our really interesting discussion around careers education. And before we get moving with any more of our questions, actually, I was thinking that maybe, Ladi, it might be worth just delving a bit deeper into what careers education actually means.
Yeah, happy to try to elaborate or explain. Careers education to me really is about helping students to develop the skills that are needed to sort of like evaluate and make informed decisions regarding different career paths. So it's really about enabling exploration of different careers. Often in schools, we talk about, you may have heard this terminology mentioned, CEIAG. CEIAG stands for Careers, Education, Information, Advice and Guidance. And all of those 4 things, i.e. education, information, advice and guidance, mean 4 different things. So careers education is very much about enabling exploration, enabling students to know what skills it is that employers need and want out there. You know, so it's about that, making sure that we educate them with regards to different careers that are available out there. And then information is providing them with information. And Google, I often tell my children, is Google is your friend. Google helps you to provide a lot of information. But the advice and guidance needs to often be done. Definitely the guidance part needs to be done by a qualified individual. You know, advice, you and I can give advice. Parents give advice to their children all the time with regards to careers. But, you know, if it comes to guidance, i.e. steering a child towards a particular career, that needs to be done by a qualified professional, just so that you don't inadvertently, say, for example, shut down a conversation. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. My father, you know, I thought at one point I wanted to become an actress. He shut me down immediately. He gave me 4 choices. You know, Ladidi, you're either going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or accountant. And in the end, I chose accountancy because I'm not too good at accountancy. But he steered me in a direction which wasn't necessarily right. Maybe it should have been explored a little bit more. That, okay, why do you want to become an actress? And I've decided I didn't want to. But parents, sadly, sometimes don't realize they can shut their child down. So possibly not the best thing. And also teachers also sometimes, you know, not that they want to, but they may see that certain careers, oh, it's really difficult to be a footballer. Don't do that. It's really competitive. They break their bones all the time.
So interesting. So I think in the world of SEND, many of our young people, conversations I've had said, you know, I want to be an actress, and they might be wheelchair bound, or I want to be a ballerina. And actually there are other elements, and actually there's nothing that stops them from being that ballerina and actually still being wheelchair bound. It's breaking those ceilings. It's breaking the so-called, and inverted commas in the air, norm. And so yes. When do you think this area, I think let's start with just the exploration part of it. When do you think that should start?
It's a very good question. It's funny, I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and recently I asked my community, I think I have about 9,000 people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, and I just asked them, when did they believe careers exploration, you know, it's all right, careers education should start? Do they believe it should start in nursery, primary, secondary, or even sort of like, university? The overwhelming majority went for primary, and I was very pleased with that because empirical evidence backs that up. There's lots of studies to say that it should start at primary. Some did say secondary, which is where I'm currently working. I work for the Careers and Enterprise Company, and the Careers and Enterprise Company have only just started a pilot with careers education going into primary school. So that's very welcomed. To be honest, it's overdue in my own opinion, but it's great that it started anyway. But in answer to your question, Krupa, I actually believe it should start in nursery school. I definitely believe it should start in nursery. The reason I go back to this is I love telling stories. My son, his name's Luke, he was in a nursery school. I purposely chose for him to go to a school that had predominantly lots of special students with special educational needs. And one of the things he learned at this school, which was a fantastic school, only 80 students nursery school, was the head teacher purposely made sure once a month a different a different professional would come in. They had the London ambulance come in. My son got to sit in front of the ambulance and touch the water hose and pretend to drive the ambulance. He came home, Mummy, I want to be an ambulance driver. Okay, the next time he went to the firemen. He wanted to be a firefighter. And then they visited a construction site. And that one stayed because till today, he wants to be an architect. He wants to be an engineer. So, and all that, Krupa, was fostered by him being in nursery school. So he got to meet a fireman, an ambulance man, a policeman, construction, an engineer, a construction, an actor, a clown came in one point. At one point, he did want to be a clown, but and it's so funny because I was okay with it. Grandma, i.e. my mother, on the other hand, you want to be a clown? A clown? What kind of? No, nobody in Nigeria is a clown. You know, and I loved it because it was then invited the Nigerian conversation in that, Mom, guess what? He could be the best clown ever. So it was in a way educating Mom also so that she could be a better grandma to him. And now my mum is open to all possibilities of careers because we have these conversations continuously, you know, in the open. So, you know, you have to help the people that surround your children. You have to educate them. So careers education, yes, in schools is very much about career exploration, but I believe career education is beyond school. It's about you educating everybody around that child to know that they should not shut down critical careers conversations, including grandparents who may not value non-traditional routes.
I think it's breaking that generational or that particular demographic that people feel they have to stay where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if we use, labels such as disadvantaged and so on and so forth, they do need to be on the same playing field as being able to be exposed to all careers and having that choice and that education to be shared with those families. We assume that they know what a lawyer does. We assume that they know what it is to be an entrepreneur.
Thank you. Yep.
And we need to stop doing that. The other angle of it is when you think about, mainstream school. I remember during my GCSEs or A levels picking options, and it was, critical time, and oh my God, it was just, I can't even. Anyway, that. But I remember looking at prospectuses and thinking, I've never heard of this stuff before. I've never seen what this course is. What is that? And so, how do we bring a prospectus alive sooner?
The thing is, you take it home. And I think it is the school's responsibility to also educate parents. Parental engagement is a key factor with regards to careers within schools, because I have seen firsthand fantastic careers advice being given to a student in a secondary school over a period of 4 years. This particular student had always said she wanted to be a journalist. Always. She went home, went to mum and dad and said, yes, so Miss has been speaking to me. She thinks my English is really great and she thinks I could be a journalist. And mum and dad, being like my African parents, but these were Asian parents, said no, doctor, lawyer, engineer, accountancy. I was like, oh my God, I'm sure that's my father and her father are the same. The poor girl came, exactly. The poor girl came crying to her career leader the next day saying, no, they said, I've got to apply to university to do one of these 4 areas. Luckily, we were in the enterprise advisor, who's a business volunteer who was supporting the school, and I were in the school. And the enterprise advisor said to the girl, do you mind if I say to you that you might want to have a conversation with mum and dad and it's going to involve you building your confidence in yourself. I want you to challenge mum and dad and go back and tell them why you want to do it. Not just let them say no, 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 but tell them why. So this particular business advisor really empowered this young student to go home. We were all petrified because we thought, oh my God, is mum and dad going to be really angry and say, it's not acceptable. How dare you talk to our child about saying. She came back the next day, and luckily, mum and dad have been very receptive, and she applied to Bath University to study journalism. And a few years later, I got told by the career leader that she'd graduated with a first class in journalism.
That is amazing.
Isn't it just the power of educating parents? The career leader had also taken some time to talk to the parents on the phone to say thank you for allowing their child to go on to study this particular course at university. And she took the opportunity to continue the conversation to let the parents know that this was their daughter's passion. This is an area she was going to excel in because she was already passionate about it. Whereas if you got her into being a medical doctor, she may do well, but she wouldn't like it and she'd be unhappy. And really educating the parents to understand that happiness is the goal. Not the pay packet that comes with doctor, engineer. And, going back to a lot of our parents' generation traditionally felt that those 3 sort of like careers was automatically going to give you happiness because it gave you wealth. Wealth doesn't guarantee happiness. And this is a message I think parents need to also help to get through to their children. If wealth brought happiness, why is there any sort of like unhappiness in Hollywood? Why do you have sort of like people in Hollywood taking drugs or getting divorced or, God forbid, even committing suicide? They have all the money in the world. So guess what? Money is not equated to happiness. So please help your child find happiness, not money.
And I think if we think about why they felt that, and this is to hear that compassionately, because it's always, they believe they're doing it for the right reasons for their children.
And they could never be criticized for that.
No, we mustn't do that. No, we can't. We'll be in trouble. But if we think about just taking a compassionate view around that, it really was because they were in survival.
Yes.
And then to have that money meant they had a roof. That was it. And actually now we've moved away from survival and we're moving into hopefully a bit more of a safer space and moving into thriving, where we have options, we have choices, we have got communities, we have a belonging. Therefore, that intrinsic element. So this young lady that I speak about, her passion has shown that actually she was in a place of flow. She got the
Yes.
first. It was, it was a no-brainer that she had set herself up for a sustainable future. So we're moving away from that mindset of basically, leaving home, leaving all those wonderful things that we're really exposed to, that conditioning to come to a brand new country, brand new weather, and to navigate this to my child.
Food, brand new food.
Brand new food, but I need to report back home because their standard of being successful or moving away is this. But they were survival, and that has a place that, like I said, just needs to be heard and seen compassion. But we need to now move forward and see what the next direction is, and bring in that diversity.
I think it's really important to definitely bring that and appreciate that diversity. I go back to the power of storytelling. So for me, it's about making sure that my kids understand that, yes, grandma did or granddad did tell me only 4 careers because that's what he knew was best at the time. Yeah, exactly. And guess what? In all things, did I not turn out very well? I well. So thank you to Grandpa. I'm very grateful. And what I want you to do is learn from me. Learn from my power storytelling, and also know that I'm not going to force you into any career you don't want to go into. However, I am, as a good parent, going to provide you with as much information as I can so that you can make an informed decision about your future.
Absolutely spot on. Brilliant.
There's so much to unpick here. Whilst you were talking, I had so many examples in my head of discussions I've had with people about different types of careers, and there's this element of perceived value to certain types of careers and jobs. And like we were saying, in some cultures, certain roles, certain careers are highly regarded compared to others. So the perceived value sometimes is only seen in monetary perspective, or from a kind of stability perspective. And so it's so interesting, just the whole conversation.
Want to make it clear, I'm not against students who want to go into a career for money. That's not what I'm saying, because I think money is actually a very good motivator. And especially for students who may come from poor backgrounds. As much as, yes, we in this country, my dad was a diplomat who then went back to Nigeria. When he went back to Nigeria, we stayed here because my younger sister wasn't very well. She had a hole in the heart and we needed to stay. That then brought our life changed. We went on the poverty ladder. We had to move from a fantastic house where we were chauffeur driven into a council accommodation. So, it was a complete, and yet for my brother, who is now doing very well and living in America, the motivation for him was money, because he was like, why have we come from riches in his eyes to complete poverty? I'm going to make sure I elevate mum out of this poverty so that we can get a bigger house. So money can be a great motivator for a career. I'm just saying, though, that it shouldn't be the only motivator. My brother luckily does something he loves and is very good at.
And I think that it comes back to the understanding the idea of VUCA. So right now we looked at today what happened around the news and how inflation and the cost of mortgages and the interest rate and all that stuff that's going up. People are now back on that poverty ladder. That is happening as we speak right now. So actually, when we're thinking about those, you've got the unassisted asylum seekers that are coming through. You have greater number of looked after children because of this. We have the national just financial mess that the country's in right now. I wonder, and I do feel that this is going to leave schools and young people feeling incredibly vulnerable at the bottom of Maslow's, thinking, oh my goodness, what if we have to move so our family can afford what they're doing? And these conversations are happening in households as we speak. These conversations are happening because it's on the news and it's happening. So I think there's also a proactive approach, Ladi, that we could have. So we know this is happening in the in media. How do we sort of share this information in schools around that? Because
I love that. I love what you've just said there, that, how do we share this information, or definitely make sure that it gets incorporated into talking with students. as I said, I've been in careers for about 28, 30 years. And I've learned different techniques of how to engage with students. And one thing I don't know about, if you remember, sort of like Krupa and Nazya, growing up, you may have been asked things like by your parents, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or an uncle and an auntie or a next door neighbor, whatever. What do you want to be? We need to stop asking students that kind of question. The question we need to be asking is, what problem do you want to solve?
Oh, I love that. That's some good stuff. Yes.
Especially with primary school students, because you ask a child who both parents are on benefit, 8-year-old at home, doesn't really have any much knowledge of what kind of careers there are out there. You say to them, what do you want to be? And mum and dad never really worked. Oh, however, they do go to Sainsbury's every Saturday. Oh, I want to be a cashier person. I want to work in a cashier as a cashier in Sainsbury's. Oh, I drive lorries. They don't have enough scope as to what careers are out there. However, if you ask them that critical question, what problem do you want to solve? They will come back with something, I promise you. For example, when I was in America, I went to visit a primary school, and I asked the class exactly this. 2 hands immediately went up. The first hand was, I want to solve hunger, because too many people go hungry. And during the pandemic, me and my family didn't have enough food. Everybody was silent, including me. And I said, that's a beautiful thing for you to want to do. Do you know that there's government policies all over the world that help with solving hunger? And he was like, policies, what's that? I said, you could be the person who sits in your government here in Delaware to kind of make that kind of thing come true. It's put good policies in place so that children like yourself or even anybody else during a pandemic do not go hungry. Loved it. The second child, I want to solve homelessness, because right now we're living with my auntie and there's 4 of us in 1 bedroom in her house. All of these were real life situation to these children. And it was like, hold on, hunger, housing, Maslow's hierarchy, the very basics. We might take it for granted, but guess what? These students, that's their reality. And they are now, after the conversations we all had, homelessness and hunger, they were now empowered. The head teacher, I said to the head teacher of the school, can you please make sure you contact your local, council, the equivalent, I think they call district over there, to say, could we have somebody come in to talk to the students about policy on hunger and homelessness, what they're doing in their councils, because we need to make sure we're nurturing, watering these seeds that we've just planted today. So, these are the kind of conversations we need to be having with students. Just tell them to look at a newspaper. Read a newspaper. A newspaper is full. Sorry, I was going to say a newspaper is full of issues that need solving. Sorry, Krupa, you were saying?
I was saying, and just keeping it really real.
Yes.
They're hearing and seeing that, we talked about social media earlier. We talked about, the recognizing the differences between themselves and their peers and so on and so forth. And actually, if you just have those conversations and give them the hope and the emotional support, without it being structured in a way.
I love that word, hope. Hope is something we all need. Without hope, none of us will be able to move forward. We have to make sure we continuously feed children with hope and empower them to know that they can change the world if they want to. Steve Jobs made Apple. He didn't just, make Apple. He's changed the way we all communicate with each other. That could be you sitting in a classroom. If you want, I'll go back to what Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. Yeah. Be the change you want to see. And I go back to my father. I always go back. I guess he's kind of like my router, my basis for everything. But I'll never forget when I was upset about a particular Nigerian policy. He made me write a letter to the Nigerian president. I wrote my letter. He mailed it. I could not believe. Dad came home. The guy had replied. I still have that letter today. I was 13, 12 maybe. Buhari was the president of Nigeria, and he wrote back to me saying, thank you for my concern about his particular regime and that he would take it under consideration. I cannot tell you how that empowered me as a 12-year-old to know that I can change if I want to. Because guess what? A whole president of a country wrote to me. We need to make sure that we do that to our kids. They can change. If they want to see change, let them go ahead and be that change. Right to the president, right to Rishi Sunak, right to Biden, right to anybody. You want to see that change, right to them and start lobbying.
That's fascinating, Ladi. I'm going to change tack slightly, and I'm going to just move towards a question which we've actually asked more or less most of our guests that have been coming on our shows. And this is linked to the difficulties and challenges that you have come across within the industry, especially when it comes to young people accessing employers and specific industries.
No, thank you. It's a very good question. You know, as with any kind of industry or any occupation, you will always have challenges. So, you know, I have encountered some sort of like difficulties and challenges, such as, for example, one of the biggest things that I came across was sort of like what I class as limited awareness and understanding amongst employers as to how schools operate. Until I worked in a school, I didn't know what a recce was. You know, so our employers often come to us and say, oh, bring your students, of course, come let them visit us. You know, they can see how we work. You know, they'll visit our marketing department, they'll visit the finance department, the HR department. Come on, bring them to the, you know, to the construction site. They'll see the cranes that go up and they'll work a machine that digs holes in the ground and see how cement is made. And that's all well and good. And we all want to do that. And we all want to bring our students. The only thing is, schools just can't take them like that. They've got to do a recce. They've got to do a risk assessment, you know, especially if it's school students with special educational needs. So the employers sometimes get frustrated because it's like industry moves like that, ladies.
Yes.
You know, they want something done. You know, someone signs a piece of paper, 2 hours later, it's done. In schools, it's a lot slower. You know, it can take weeks, even months sometimes, to get that visit done. So we need to basically communicate better and help each other to understand each other's perspectives. Schools move slow because health and safety and safeguarding of students is paramount. It is first and foremost. Employers don't know that. Until we tell them that, they don't understand it. So really, I guess for me, the biggest thing is sort of like lack of awareness and understanding of each other's sort of like ways of working. Krupa, did you want to come in?
Yes. Do you know what I hear that and I 100% understand the safeguarding health and safety. Now, when head and I had as head teacher, I made sure every learner in sixth form was out a day in a week. Everyone was out in sixth form, and they went to things that were meaningful, and you know, to the point that they were employed at the end of it. It was wonderful. It was an absolute operational nightmare. Everybody was sick on that day, and so we'd have to find someone that would drive the minibus, but we made it happen. Okay. And we really like it. The staff were outstanding and, you know, really cared about direction. However, my argument would always be when we had this conversation with employers and with staff and with parents, when we take so long to do these things, actually in the world of work, are you waiting on risk assessment for you to go to work? So we need to be thinking about our planning and that planning around that better. So then we started introducing something called World of Work from year 7. And so it started to get learners thinking about what the world was like and try to recreate those things. So they're identifying those risks sooner independently.
Yes.
So the risk assessment doesn't become such a big, hefty document. Do you see what I mean? So I think I learned the hard way, don't get me wrong, was actually the sooner we get this done, the sooner we start having these conversations and embedding it within the curriculum, within the timetable.
Yes.
So much time. It shouldn't feel like it's a
big weight.
Do you see what I mean?
100%.
I always keep coming back to, in the world of work, which is what we're trying to sort of appreciate here and trying to get people thinking and moving in this way. Would you be waiting this long? No.
No, but then you are dealing with adults who also know how to cross a road safely. That's, you know, I'm starting to realize, because the school I visited, we're trying to get them to go across the road to visit a construction site, you know, and after what I saw at the school, you know, the students themselves, keeping them even in the classroom was tricky. So, you know, to take them across a major road in Brent Cross, where buses and lorries come, it does need a little bit more understanding from the employer. And luckily, this particular employer understood that. I think it's just educating that, look, guys, you're thinking we could do this tomorrow. We may have to take a week or two.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's incredible. But also having them come in. So
Yes.
while that's the journey of their, while we're getting learners out and they are developing those independent skills and they learn the life skills around cross and grow safely,
Exactly.
and that spatial awareness and so on and so forth. It's how can we keep momentum and nourishing and that dialogue, because that's that you want to embed those skills and it's happening simultaneously. How do we get those employers or people that are in industries coming into schools in the interim or simultaneously, which is not easy to time,
but it's also educating employers to recognize that you engaging with schools and colleges is not just a nice CSR thing to do or morally. It is about you protecting your talent pipeline.
Absolutely.
If you want the future workforce to have the skills that your industry needs, you need to be going into schools, helping students know what skills that you need. So please do not see this as it's a wonderful, glorious, luxurious thing we're doing, helping students. It's making us all feel very good about ourselves. No, it is. If you do not want your industry to die, as COVID has shown, certain things can easily go. We don't have to be at work 24/7 anymore. Hybrid working is the way, If you want your industry to survive, please go in and educate students as to what skills your industry needs. What abilities, what kind of experiences you're looking for in the classroom that can be translated into the world of work. So, it's also very much so. For me, those are the kind of challenges that I'm finding, that, helping employers to understand that it's not just a great thing to do. It's not just a great community thing. It's actually protecting your talent pipeline. So that's one.
Absolutely. We're just about to head into a break, but before we do that, I just wanted to also bring up the thought process around employers and employees. So these young people, potential employees, understanding advocacy and being able to ask what they need, because that's also it's a very important area where to support employers who do want to do wonderful things and have learners in and trying to work, and we're trying to find this middle ground of getting them in and being safe and all these other really important things, is also thinking about how can a learner feel confident that when they say I need X strategy or Y strategy, that the person receiving that understands and is able to support that. And I think that there's an education element that probably needs some more developing as well.
I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree. I think there's also some employers out there that want to help, but sadly can't, just because of the size of their organization. They don't have the capacity. One employer told me, Ladi, I want to go into the schools more, but I'm literally a one-man band. So these kind of challenges come as well, sort of like conflicting priorities, conflicting constraints. He goes out of his business. That's nobody to answer the phone for the whole day, whereas his heart is in the right place. Another thing we've kind of alluded to, something we're very concerned about, what we've spoken a little bit about, is sort of like managing mismatched expectations, the student expectation, and to the employer expectation. It's really empowering employers to know that they can have good, deep conversations around things like time management. I'm asking you to come to work on time because that's what's expected of you in the real world. I know in school you can be late and you just get a little bit of a 5-minute detention, but at work you could be sacked for that. So please understand that time management is a big thing. So helping students to recognize what they're supposed to get out of this, preparing students is really key. Educators preparing students, but also preparing the employers themselves to know how to talk to students. Don't be too harsh and kind of just cutting them off, but talk to them really in a nice, compassionate way that can help them to change behavior as such.
And engaged, so they come back in.
Yes.
Come back in. Right, it looks as though we are now heading out to a break, so we'll be back very shortly to continue this really exciting interview. So we shall see you shortly.
It's time for a fresh start to language learning. Pearson EdXL's new student-centred French, German and Spanish 2024 GCSEs cater to the needs of all learners, regardless of their background, ability or reason for studying. Rooted in learned language knowledge, their assessments are transparent and accessible, allowing all students to showcase their language skills. Through inclusive and relatable content, the new Pearson EdXL MFL GCSEs build a shared cultural capital that helps students develop an understanding of and appreciation for the wider world. Find out more at go.pearson.com/MFL GCSE 24.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
BBC News reports that the school run by Ruth Perry, who took her own life after a critical Ofsted, has been rated good after a new inspection. Ms Perry died in January after receiving news her school was being downgraded from outstanding to inadequate. Ms Perry's death prompted an outpouring of anger about the inspection system, although Ofsted defended its grading process and said one-word gradings would not be scrapped. The latest report comments on the work done by the school to address previous weaknesses. The new report raises again the question of high-stakes inspections. MPs are to hold an inquiry in the autumn and will look at how the system is working. Ms Perry's sister, Professor Julia Waters, said in a statement, "The reversal of the previous judgment in a matter of months illustrates why schools should be given the time to correct weaknesses before the final report is published, and that the latest judgment proves what all of those who knew Ruth and the school have known all along." Last month, Ofsted announced some changes which allow schools that were given an inadequate rating over safeguarding to be re-inspected within 3 months, giving them a chance to be regraded if they have addressed concerns. Teachers' pay has been in the news again following 2 further days of strike action from teachers in England. The Daily Mirror reports that Education Secretary Gillian Keegan is continuing to be under pressure to publish pay proposals or risk strikes dragging on even longer. All the major teaching unions in England are conducting fresh ballots after rejecting a £1,000 one-off payment for 2023 and an average 4.5% pay rise for next year. The government referred the decision on pay to the pay review body, who has reportedly recommended a 6.5% pay rise, but the DfE continues to refuse to publish the advice. The Guardian reports on Labour's plans for education should they win the next general election. The article itself focused on plans for early years, which could see more graduate teachers working in nurseries and more nursery places in primary school settings. Shadow Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson said she wanted to put early years on an equal footing with schools to give children the best start in life. The TES gave further comment on Labour's plans as the party set out how it plans to boost teacher retention and improve standards. The plan includes giving early career teachers a one-off payment of £2,400 for staying in the profession and sending regional improvement teams to help schools. New teachers will be required to have QTS, and they will also improve recruitment by cutting costs. The party, currently in opposition, has not made any comment on teacher pay. Finally, the BBC reports on what it describes as a crisis in waiting for children in care. In March, the government extended a ban on unregulated homes to children in care aged 16 and 17. This followed a BBC investigation which found some had been forced to live in caravans and barges, and some had experienced abuse. The crackdown begins in October, when Ofsted will begin inspections, and all unregulated care settings will become illegal. However, some local authorities fear they will have to continue the use of unregulated accommodation, usually in houses and flats in residential areas, because they will have no alternative. Regulated placements are suffering chronic staff shortages, and a squeeze on places at the same time as a rise on numbers of children coming into care is causing continued issues. A DfE spokesperson said it was the responsibility of local authorities to provide safe placements, but that it was investing £142 million over the next 3 years to ensure the transition to Ofsted registration is successful. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I'm going to support a question everyone will see at the start of next year. It goes something like this. Hi EduTwitter, can you reply with where you are so I can show my class how far a post on the internet can reach? With a bit of free tech, you can make this much more visual. I'm going to use Google Maps because it's free and most likely you'll have used Google Maps at some point in the past. So, when you have all your responses, sign into Google, go to Maps and click on the menu next to the search box. That's the 3 lines that look like a burger. From the menu, select My Places. You'll now have 4 options: Lists, Labelled, Visited, and Maps. Click on Maps and at the bottom select Create Map. Now you can give the map a title so you can find it next year for comparison and add all the places from your Twitter replies. Simply type the name of the place. When it appears with a blue point marker, you can click the plus sign to add it to the map and then select the colour to help it stand out. When you've finished, all places will be saved and you can access the map by following the first few steps: Menu, My Places, Maps. There are loads of other great tools to use also. Measure the distance from your school to those places, hit preview and go into the view only mode. Here you can select a place and you treat it to a short bio and an image of the area. So next time you're looking to bring a lesson to life, why not try using maps to help pupils see where places are in the world? Do you have any top tips for mapping? Why not get in touch and tell us what you want to know about tech? I'm Steve Woods and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome back. I hope you are enjoying our fascinating discussion with Ladi on all things careers education. And we are now moving on closer to the end of our interview. So some pertinent questions left. Krupa.
Thank you, Nazya. So those of you that know me know that I am a huge advocate for next steps, for careers, and for thinking big. And so this conversation, I tell you, is making my heart sing over and over again. I feel like we can talk for days on end, and no doubt we will remain in contact and remain talking. There's a reason why we've 100%. Connected. But before I get carried on with all the other great stuff that I do want to talk about, I do want you to shed some light on the Gatsby benchmarks and why it's important or not. And what's your favourite Gatsby?
I'm so glad you asked about the what's your favourite one, because I've got lots to tell you about my favourite one. Anybody that follows me on social media will know what my favourite one is. But I thought, let me start by trying to sort of like give some context as to what the Gatsby benchmarks are, because I'm very sure unless you're in the career space, you've probably never heard of the Gatsby benchmarks. I've been in careers about 30 years. I welcome the Gatsby benchmark. It came into being about 2013. A wonderful gentleman called Sir John Holman conducted a worldwide research as to what good careers provision, outstanding careers provision looks like. And he has come up with a wonderful framework of 8 things that educational institutions should do to have outstanding careers provision. And that is known, and this framework, these 8 things are known as the Gatsby benchmarks. So I like to think of the Gatsby benchmarks as a set of guidelines created by the Gatsby Foundation, where right here in the United Kingdom, which is basically to ensure that young people receive effective careers guidance and support. The benchmarks serve as a framework for schools, colleges, and even organizations to improve their careers programs and to help young individuals make informed decisions about their future. In an attempt to explain sort of like in a bit more detail what the Gatsby benchmarks are, the 8 Gatsby benchmarks, and their importance, I'll start by mentioning the first one, Gatsby Benchmark 1, it's known as, and that is about each education establishment must have a stable careers program. This particular benchmark emphasizes the importance of having a structured, stable careers programs within education institutions. It involves appointing a dedicated career leader, establishing a careers program, i.e. what you intend to do regarding careers, employability and pathways in your school or college moving forward, and also critically providing opportunities where so that the rest of the Gatsby benchmarks can be achieved. So often it's said that this is like the bedrock for the rest of the Gatsby benchmarks. So a lot of people say, including myself, Gatsby benchmark 1 is very important because it is the basis of the rest of the benchmarks. Benchmark 2 is about labour market information, and I often like to say to people, it really is about making sure that students know about what we class as labour market information, and that's things like what careers are in demand now, what careers will be in demand in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and coupled with that, what skills will be in demand to meet those careers as such. You know, for example, the pandemic, digital skills have never been more important. Krupa, you mentioned earlier, resilience skills, something that our parents came here from India, from Nigeria, from China, from wherever our parents came from as immigrants. They came with a lot of resilience skills, those bounce back abilities coming back into fashion now. Employers want you to be resilient. You know, can you recover very quickly from, I don't know, bad news such as your share prices have fallen down? Are you the kind that, okay, I'm going to sit and wallow in it? Or are you the kind to be able to bounce back and say, okay, the share prices have fallen, but we're going to do this and this and this for our company? So it's that kind of making sure that students are equipped with the skills that are needed for the future, but also things like entry level salaries. A lot of students leave university, ladies, and they think, oh, I'm going to walk here straight into a 30, 40 grand, 50 grand job. And a student saying, yeah, I want to do that because it gives me 60 grand. How to really manage his expectations that, look, 60 grand is what, like, is the mid-range salary. Yeah, when you first start, you may be on 19, 20. Miss, I can't live on that. Yes, so you might want to stay at home instead of thinking about going to buy your own flat or, you know, have your own flat in London. So it's about helping students to manage their expectations, but also really to know what kind of jobs are out there and what skills are out there so that they can prepare for it. That's Gatsby Benchmark 2. Krupa, you may also like Gatsby Benchmark 3. That may be your favorite because it's the one that really tackles inclusion. It's about making sure that we're addressing individual student needs. You know, it highlights the importance of personal career support geared toward that particular, you know, child, that student. It challenges stereotypical thinking. Boys, please know you can be nurses. Girls, please know you can be engineers. Yeah. It also is about, you know, SEND students. You know, please don't tell a SEND student because they have some kind of, you know, in your eyes, of disability as such, and it means they'll never work. No, there are several SEND students, and I've heard stories from multiple employers, you know, saying, listen, that SEND student, we love him because he absolutely loves repetitive tasks. So for us, the whole thing that needs our shredding, you know, at the end of every day, our shred, we have to have, you know, confidential documents shredded. Nobody wants to stay for half an hour every day doing this. He loves doing it. He will do it the whole day. We've never had a problem with shredding anymore because he just loves doing it. So please understand, it's just, as my son always says, Mum, they just have a different ability. And it is our job to understand they have that different ability. And so to make sure that we have inclusion and diversity policies in place to make sure that we're catering to meeting that individual student need. Now, I'm deliberately going to miss out Gatsby Benchmark 4 because it is my favorite benchmark. It's about linking curriculum learning to careers. I'll quickly talk about Gatsby Benchmarks 5 and 6. 5 and 6 is actually why the Careers and Enterprise Company was initially established in 2015. And it was basically about making sure that students have employers coming into schools and colleges to talk to students about the world of work, and also students going out into the world of work to meet on employer sites to witness what it's like to be at an employer site. So things like work insight visits falls into Gatsby 6. So things like work experience also fall into Gatsby 6. Things like job shadowing falls into Gatsby Benchmark 6. Gatsby Benchmark 6 is that students must get to experience a workplace. So they must, when they visit a workplace, they'll see the HR department, finance department, marketing department, and then they'll be able to make informed decisions about their careers. So Gatsby Benchmark 5 is about getting employers into schools. Gatsby Benchmark 6 is about getting students out into the world of work. And then Gatsby Benchmark 7 and 8. 7 is very much about making sure that students know about further and higher education. And in this day and age, we are very much, the Careers and Enterprise Company, very much about promoting and amplifying technical and vocational pathways. Countries such as Germany, Sweden have been very good about apprenticeships, and a lot of their workforce from a very young age know that they're going into this vocation. We here in England haven't made it so much so. We've really pioneered and championed the academic degree, 3-year academic degree. Guys, it's a lot more than that these days. Students like my son, 13-year-old son, he needs to learn hands-on. So he probably will be doing an apprenticeship, his own words. He doesn't want to do the traditional degree. He wants to do an apprenticeship because also it helps him get paid while he's working. But more importantly, at the end of 3 to 5 years, he has got experience. So as opposed to a traditional degree where you've gone into university and you may not have that work experience. Now, I'll quickly end on Gatsby Benchmark 8, which is really crucial, which is that each student should have access to a qualified, and I underline qualified, careers guidance counselor. You know, someone who is qualified to be able to guide that student in their chosen path. So it's a very different, as I spoke earlier, it's very different to careers advice. You and I can give advice. This is what we think is good. I am actually a qualified careers guidance counselor, so I have my level 6. So I can give guidance, but you know, we should only make sure that people who are qualified can do so. And then lastly, I'll really elaborate on my favorite by far of all the benchmarks. It is the best benchmark ever because it is benchmark for linking curriculum learning to careers. Why I love it is very simple. It helps students make the connection with what they are learning in the classroom and how it's used in the world of work. I started this job working for the Careers and Enterprise Company about 5 years ago. And I remember the day when I decided I'm going to probably spend the rest of my life in some way, shape or form working, even as a volunteer for them if I was to leave paid employment. It was because I went into a classroom in a school here in West London, and the engineer who was the business volunteer, the enterprise advisor of that school, came in. And he came into the classroom and the boys and girls were a bit rowdy. And he came in and he said, look at this bridge. And he brought up his computer, his laptop, and they all looked at the bridge. He said, what country is that bridge in? He gave them a little bit of a clip. Oh, down under and all sorts. And they got it right. It was Australia, Sydney Harbour Bridge. He then showed pictures of the San Francisco Bridge. And then he showed pictures of the Hammersmith Bridge just down the road. And he said, my company has helped build these bridges. And guess how we did it? We used Pythagoras theorem. My jaw dropped because I was like, somebody actually, so this Pythagoras theorem is real? Somebody uses it? Yeah, I don't know about you ladies, but I genuinely did not believe anybody would ever use Pythagoras theorem. You know, with the square of something, two sides and added together make the square of the hypotenuse or something along those lines. Anyway, this gentleman showed us wonderful diagrams of how he uses Pythagoras theorem to build these bridges and trigonometry and all sorts. And then one boy in the back of the class who was a bit rowdy when we first came in, put his hand up and he said, sir, I saw you drive in that Lamborghini down there. So you're trying to tell me if I learn Pythagoras theorem, I will have a Lamborghini like you. And I tell you, I love the engineer. He didn't miss a beat. He turned his laptop around. He goes, look at my desktop picture. That's my wife. That's our house. That's my beautiful baby girl not born too long ago. And those are our 2 dogs. I'm telling you, young man, you learn and stay well and good in school and do it right. Learn Pythagoras and a lot more. You will have this house and a lot more than just that Lamborghini down there. The boy turned around to his teacher and he said, miss, I promise you I'm going to learn Pythagoras theory and every other theory there is so that I can have a Lamborghini. Ladies, I love that story because for me, it was the light bulb moment I needed for me to understand. This relating what they're learning in the classroom to the world of work raises aspirations. This boy was now curious enough about engineering because he wanted a Lamborghini. Hence, I'm not against you wanting money or good things in life if it'll get you there. To me, that's a nice thing that you want to do. Let's make sure that we continue to help them connect maths to the world of work, English to the world of work, science to the world of work, PSHE to the world of work. So for me, it's that kind of thing that, you know, why I love Gatsby Benchmark 4 so much. It really emphasizes the importance of helping students know what they're learning in the classroom is connected to employment, future employment that they will be interested in. It helps that career exploration that I was talking about earlier.
Absolutely. And I think taking that further, it enables them to actually think, okay, employment is an element, but then to think bigger and become self-employed.
Yeah.
So you can design your own jobs. Like, how cool is that? Like, I wish someone said that to me. You can do all these great things,
you
and
know,
you've studied hard and all the rest of it. And I'm like, I still quite haven't found what I'm looking for.
But you see, in America, it is like that. Sadly, we don't do that here in England, which is really sad. Every American child believe that they will be their own CEO. They're brought up to believe that entrepreneurial is a path for them if they want it to be. Whereas for some reason here, we just haven't done that in England. I don't know about where you guys are from, but in Nigeria, a lot of people think about owning their own company. Here, for some reason, we just don't. We always think about working for someone. But guess what? When you're working for someone, you're helping them, their dreams come true. Work for yourself and make your dreams come true.
So, but it's maybe then thinking about purpose. So it comes back to your winning question is what change do you want to make?
Mm-hmm.
So it brings it right back to that. So if you are going to be employed, but you're going to be employed where we're thinking about, purpose, and you're thinking about people and then partnerships and then the planet. Are those my big four areas that I generally think in terms of, right, how am I going to inspire in this room? It has to hit one of those, if not all of these areas. And in life. So you've got a structure there. But I think we need to start bringing that together, because there is no one way and there is no right way. That there are various pathways, and being able to carve that and be able to move in whichever direction that can be is all good stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Honestly, this is so amazing. It's like knowing about careers, education. It really I was reading that book. I started reading a book called Hopeful Schools.
Okay.
And I think it's by Mary Myatt, I think, wrote Hopeful Schools. I started reading it and then I put it down, and because I got busy with work. But just the thinking around how careers education gives hope, gives hope to the future generation.
Yes.
And the thing is that if it's embedded, then the idea of hopeful schools is just so it's just so powerful.
Exactly. I agree. And achievable. I love hopeful schools. That's such a wonderful way to think about it.
So we are coming to the end of our interview. Sadly, Ladi, I mean, we've really loved talking to you. So we need to ask you our last and final question. And it's probably one of our favorite questions, which is about top tips and insights. So if anyone is interested in working within the sector, but specifically for careers education, so supporting the career work within educational settings, what top tips and insights can you give to that person?
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do so. I have loads and loads of tips. It depends, I guess, who I'm talking to. If it's a potential educator who wants to sort of like enter into education, I've got different tips. And then if it's an employer, I've got different tips. But let's just say we're looking at someone who wants to enter, say like be a career leader or an educator. I say the first thing is please work towards achieving all 8 Gatsby benchmarks. The 8 that I've just given you there, really work towards achieving that. That's been seen internationally recognized as the gold standard for careers education. So implementing and applying those 8 Gatsby benchmarks will be really, really a great place to start. It really helps with, my favorite, which is career exploration. Children should be able to explore different careers. So for me, it's that really, going out there and enabling students to know about the different careers that are out there, the different skills that are needed within those, sort of like jobs that are out there. Also enabling students to get work experience, go out into meet employers, that kind of thing. So all the things really encompassed within the 8 Gatsby benchmarks. So other things I'd say to someone looking to be a career leader possibly would be, please concentrate on building your strong partnerships. And I really say this because a lot of educators don't realize. They're thinking, I'm saying to them, go out and meet employers. Oh, I'm too shy. That's not my job. That's not why I went into teaching. Guess what? You are surrounded by employers in your everyday life. Nazya, you just said your brother's there with you, your sister's there with you. They may well be working. They are employers you already have, can come into your schools. Your next door neighbor, the fact that he's a plumber, self-employed plumber, get him into a school to talk about self-employment. Your sister, who is the nurse, your mother, who used to be our teacher in India, get her in. Whoever you have around you, the person you used to work with, your first ever job when you came out of university, when you both worked in a hotel and he's now a hotel manager, get them in. You have lots of people, the people you even buy coffee from in the morning before you go into school. You know, the person that serves you your coffee, when they close at 2 o'clock, because coffees then are closed after lunch, get them to come in and give a careers talk. You have to recognize as educators, you are surrounded by a network of people who you know, but just for some reason have just not managed to make that connection that guess what, they're all employers, let me get them in. Okay, so start building those, you know, sort of like strong networks, and start recognizing that you yourself have a network already of people around you, friends, family, and all sorts, you know, your imam at the mosque, your pastor at church, those kind of people, whoever it is, they are probably working and can come in and talk about their careers. We've hinted at this earlier. Please engage your parents and guardians and carers. It's really important. Parental engagement is critical because parents can undo great careers advice just by the words of no, you cannot be an actor. No, you cannot be a journalist. You know, we've spoken about that. So please engage your parents and understand that you need to also educate them. Offer different diverse career explorations. So, you know, things like holding the career fair, I'm not against them, but just please make sure it's meaningful. Career fair is just going around and ticking, yeah, I visited table 1, table 2, table 3. No, empower your students to ask questions. What skills are needed in your industry? You know, those kind of questions, okay? Job shadowing, internships, bringing in guest speakers. Consider a mentoring program if you've got sort of like NEETs. I've seen mentoring programs with students that are in danger of becoming not in employment, educational training. Mentoring programs have turned them around. And as you mentioned earlier, the self-employment aspect of it can really be quite crucial in turning sort of like NEET provision around, in the sense that, okay, hold on, I can actually make money by working for myself. Oh my goodness, all right, I'm going to start paying attention in school because I don't have to work for somebody, I can work for myself. So, you know, make sure you're kind of really helping them to explore different careers. Exactly what you said earlier, you know, Krupa, making sure that we enable students to see the self-employment is also an option. Yeah, we've spoken about sort of like making sure that the school offers personalized guidance, individualized guidance, and going back to sort of like both of you who have come from, you know, working head teachers in schools with students with special educational needs, making sure that the mainstream schools also remember that they have a special education need department, and hence catering to those individual students. SEND is not just about SEND provision school, SEND only schools. No, every single mainstream school has a SEND department. What are you doing for your SEND department? So let's all make sure we're asking those kind of questions, really and truly. So the top tips is think about what we could be doing more for our SEND students. I've challenged myself. This year for me is about what I could be doing more for my SEND students, because, you know, we need to just make sure that we're catering to their needs. Employability skills I've spoken about. I'm trying to think what else I might. Yeah. Oh, the biggie. That's the biggie for me. Monitor and evaluate impact. I remember telling many of my staff, you know, if you can't evidence it, it never happened. No matter how great that wonderful careers talk you gave is, if you did not get the evaluation forms completed afterwards or beforehand to show journey traveled, it didn't happen, because we've got no way of measuring the impact it's having. So please make sure you collect that data. That data will help you to hopefully even get funding. So really crucial that you are, you know, making sure you stay on top of that data. And then last but by no means least for me is EDI, really, you know, equity, diversity and inclusion being biggies. Make sure we're really addressing that. And that's not just about sort of like LGBT, race, ageism or whatever, you know, it's very much about please understand and appreciate where our grandparents have come from. And okay, then they may not have seen very, I don't know, they may have been working in places that were not very race friendly as such. However, they didn't just sit back and just say, no, it's okay, they cannot trample over me. They challenged and made things better. Please know that you have to be that change we want to see. Challenge to make things better. Okay, don't sit back and just think, you know what, it's the way it is, it's broken, I'm not going to get anywhere with it. No, sit back and think, you know what, I am going to make things better and I'm going to be the change I want to see. The kind of things we spoke about earlier. So that's it from a school perspective. From an employer perspective, it's mainly please start communicating. Employers have often told me the reason that they haven't been involved in schools is they don't know how to do it and nobody's ever asked them. Please, can I ask of all educators, please just ask employers. and guide them as to how to do it, please. Yeah, ask. The only reason they don't do it, your alumni, employers, the only reason they're not involved is nobody ever asked them. So my big tip is please do ask employers. And employers, I then urge you in equal amount, please seek to understand first than to be understood. And I go back to, this sort of like one of my favorite, that's one of my favorite, I think it's number 5 in the seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Seek to understand first than to be understood. Know how schools work and work with them, please. Okay. They may be in your eyes a little bit slow because you've invited them to come and see a construction site. They can't come tomorrow, no, but they will come probably within the month, or worst case scenario, sometime that academic year. Just be patient and be understanding. I think I'll leave it there, ladies, because I could talk forever.
Thank you so much, Ladi. Krupa, final thoughts, final words?
I'm floored. I'm in awe. I feel enthused. I love being an enterprise advisor. I love seeing your posts. I love being part of a network where we are so aligned. And I think that's everything you've said there has just brought all of that together. I think the passion runs really strong in the discussion that we've had. I love how real you are with it. There's no sugarcoating. This is what it is. This is the direction we're going. Who's jumping on board? Let's do this. It takes a village, Ladi. And I say this over and over again. It takes a village. And we're starting with a really good village here now. So I really hope that those that are listening today are really enjoying this as much.
I really do. Thank you for reminding me of that. It really does take a village. And we 3 ladies, we're our village, and we'll continue to recruit more to our village, and we will get there with these young children.
Yeah, we will.
So that was the end of our interview with Ladi. She has been an inspiration, and an inspirational actually in terms of making sure that we as educators always have some support for our students. Actually, we have support for our students. And Krupa, what are your thoughts?
So I have 3 things that have come to mind for me. So I thought the impact of storytelling, and actually how we can use that to engage all stakeholders, because that alone I think is just a really important key there. The second thought that was running through my mind was the ways of reflecting realities of our learners and again stakeholders that will be involved. So their interest and their identities and bringing that to the forefront, because there's some power. There's lots of power in that. And the third thing is the quality of careers and its destinations, and that it doesn't have to be linear. It could go in various ways, and I like that. I felt hope, and I can see choice on its way when it comes to career. So those are my takeaways from that session.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Ladi, for joining us. And we hope our listeners got lots and lots of information, useful information out of that interview with you. So, Krupa, we move on to our segment of I Wish I Knew Earlier.
Okay, so this has been inspired from my daughters this morning. So they had a gymnastics competition, and one of my daughters had a blip in her routine. And she was the first up, filled with nerves, with so many eyes on her, yet she continued. She went back to her team, she breathed, and although she felt frustrated and disappointment, despite of that, she championed on to support them. And I thought, wow, like I wanted to just go and hold her, and I just watched her and allowed that to just unravel. And so what I learned from her was that she respected herself, and as a result, she was able to offer the respect to others. And therefore, I think her competitors respected her too. So I wish I knew this. I wish I knew that building and supporting others takes nothing away from you, and the value of character development. And that's what I've learned today from her.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for that, Krupa. And my Serenity Sunday moment, something that we still need to find a jingle for. So we've spoken a little bit about storytelling and hope, and today I have some more words to say about both, actually. Life gets gritty sometimes, so hope plays a big part in preparation for those inevitable tough times. So what helps you to harness hope? Is it keeping a clear head? Is it protecting your peace? Staying grounded, being intentional with the actions you take? Is it seeking safe spaces and allowing yourself to be you? Is it about setting boundaries and forming friendships that uplift and enrich all of those things? Be proud of you for forging your own path, for breaking toxic intergenerational patterns, and for persisting every day so that hope remains consistent and constant. Let your story unfold. Let it be told. Let it be an inspiration for your children and the young people you work with. Your story will take its own twists and turns, and it's not easy, but ultimately so worth it. With fist bumps and high fives from us, Krupa and Nazya, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.